the concept about the force of abiding, okay, we have two names about the force of abiding, or either in Pali or in Sanskrit. Okay, one is called the Brahma Vihara, and the other is called this Abramana Citta. So you could say that the practice of the Brahma Vihara, you could say, is a practice of the Abramana Citta. Okay, so literal translation of the Brahma Vihara, sometimes we just borrow that translation from Bhikkhu Yanamoni. A German monk actually lived in Sri Lanka in old day when he translate one of the bulky texts, which is a very important text, especially for the meditation, also called the Visuddhimagga, the path of purification. And he rendered the word Brahma Vihara as the force of life abide, or sometimes you could say force of life abode. Okay. Well, literally Brahma, as I said before, also mentioned before, it's a term referred to in general understand as like almost like in let's say if for the Judaism, they don't like to pronounce the word like Jehovah, right? But they don't pronounce it. As far as I know, I know a lot of people who really practice Judaism. They say they can never wanted to pronounce the name of the God. So maybe in some other religion, for example, they will call it Allah. Okay. But then in those days in India, of course, actually Indian religion is very complicated in some way. In a different period of time, they like to always kind of like believe one God could be the king of the God, something like that. Okay. During the Buddha's time, the Brahma is believed to be the king of the God. And now actually, if you go to India, if you ask Indian people in general, except in a certain area in India, still retain the same thing. They think Brahma is the highest, the most powerful, almost like the God of the God, something like that. Otherwise, they will say Brahma now is not that important. Now Shiva is the God of the God, something like that. It's just because during the period of a time, it's almost like some other God become favor of the most of people or the religious leaders, and they replace it. Okay. Now, actually, during the Buddha's time, of course, the Brahma is believed that the one that are the most powerful one as a creator. Okay. Now, the Buddhism, actually, there were, if you look at the Buddhist text, like a sutra, or what you call a sutta, like particularly from Majjhima Nikaya, and some even from Digha Nikaya, that means what we call the middle length discourse, or these long discourses. You always find that a lot of these Brahmin during the Buddha's time, sometimes they come to see the Buddha to challenge the Buddha about their belief. And they heard what the Buddha have any other opinion. They just want to make sure whether it was true what they were told. The Buddha, have a different opinions about what the traditional in India believe. Okay. One of the main topic actually is about this. Basically is about the Brahma, the concept of Brahma, how the Buddha understand the concept of Brahma. Okay. I don't want to address too much on that, but so the term actually we call that a Brahma. The Buddha always emphasizes, it's sometimes some people like to saying that the practice of the Brahma mean the Brahma we had actually literally mean abide, mean you live. You could say you live like a Brahma, or you can say you live like a divine, something like that. Okay, when you say you live like a Brahma, so you're almost like referring that you live like a God. Okay, but if you say you live like a divine, then you kind of like you live like have the quality of the divine beings, like that. Okay, but either the way you render it, Buddhism, certainly, I mean, from the Buddha perspective, whether you believe there's a God as how powerful it is or not, but the main thing, like the main the most important thing is always, from Buddhist perspective, is that you have to be able to do the same thing. Okay? In other words, I mean, you must be able to generate your mind into that kind of like the godlike situation. If you cannot generate your mind in like that godlike situation or that kind of quality, if you don't have the quality of like a god, then there's no way that you will understand what a god is. I mean, this is how the Buddha approached, you know. I mean, it's from that, it's very clear, very different from other religion. I mean, because you believe someone, okay, you believe in a god or you believe what. But in Buddhism, it's whether we are able to be like them or not. If we are not able to be like them, then, in other words, I mean, there's no way you could say you know them, okay? So, especially if that has to do with your reincarnation, that if you believe that we can be reincarnated, when I die, can reborn to a place, then if that taken as a serious consideration, what qualifies you to be born in that place? For example, what qualifies you to be a human? And then you were born here in the earth and then be a human. From Buddhist perspective, that always you must have the quality of being a human. Otherwise, you will not be a human. Okay? And some of the quality of being a human are, for example, that means you can think. Yeah, you know? And you do have a kind of like Buddhism called the will. Maybe nowadays in modern English called a free will. Okay? And of course, you also have the quality of a desire. So you are craving for comfort. You are craving for sexuality even. And then that's why you were born here. If without those things as the quality, you might have less for that, but you definitely have that kind of root there. And those are the quality, those are the things that you have to be qualified in order to be born as a human. Okay. The same thing if you want to be born in a heaven, to the Buddhist understanding. Whether you believe there's a heaven or not is another story. But that's how the Buddhists think that then you must also develop yourself to have that standard as being the heavenly being. Okay. That's the reason why, from the Buddha understanding, now even that even you will born to the heavens, you might have those qualities. What are those qualities? I mean, there are a lot of them, but the main thing what we are talking is that you must be able to have a certain wholesome mind. And that kind of wholesome mind, the certain wholesome mind, will give you a certain ability, even when you are being a human, that will enhance your a good morality. I know that this looks like a very funny language, but now I will give some example. So, or maybe I'll put it in a straightforward term first. That means you can be a very generous person. So that's what we call, because through the generosity you are doing, always consider the other, you are not stingy, you want to help the other all the time. With that kind of good, wholesome mind, so you can be qualified as a heavenly being also. But still, because Buddhism believes in a heavenly being in a different levels of heavenly being, you have the heavens with the female male form, and then you have the heavens that only unique sex, there's no female male forms, and then you have the heavens also don't have any form at all. Only consciousness exists. Okay. So all these kind of places, because Buddhism believes in the whole existence of the universe, if you want to be reborn in those different type of existence, for example, that a place that no female male form, or you want to be born in a different kind of heavens, they have a female male form, but they do definitely, comparatively that they have a better life than here. So just by doing the generosity, or just by being a good person like you learn, just by because you are observing a good morality, so what that will help you, that will, in the Buddhist understanding, that will only help you to be born. The highest places you could go is that to be born in the heavens that have the female male body. Okay? If you say that I want to go beyond that, and it's believed that if you go higher heaven, you have a longer life, definitely your mind is much more happier and your mind become much more subtle also. And your skin in that heaven has become much more subtle, refined, and your light is become more bright. Okay, so that's what we call the heaven of the first dhyana, the heaven of the second dhyana, the heaven of the third dhyana, the heaven of the fourth dhyana. Okay, I mean, are you feeling this topic is very boring? Yes. You say it's boring. Yes. I think in America, I need to address this topic. If you are in a Buddhist country, like perhaps even in Thailand or in China, people, they don't like to talk this topic because they only know one thing. Either they want to go to Amitabha Buddha land, or either they just want to get enlightenment. But in America, in general, even in America also, there's a common understanding. The American people always think, oh, Buddhism do not believe in that, heavens and so forth and this. I mean, of course, maybe some argue that there's no such a thing in Buddhism, but definitely if you look at the Buddhist text, it's always mentioned the heavens, heavens all the time. So it depends how you like to render the meanings of that context. Okay. Anyway, but because of that, I like to give another pictures how Buddhism understand that. So that's the reason why once you understand, I remember once I was in Japan, I was invited to give a talk in a university in Japan. When I look at all these people who come to attend the classes, mostly come from America because they went there to study Japanese, right? And then anyway, because there was something about Buddhism, even though they live in Japan, they don't have chance to get to know what Buddhism is about in Japan. And basically, what I want to say is that, and hardly they could get people to speak English, because the talk was in English. So they came here. And because then suddenly I saw there's a lot of American people there, then I just thought, oh, maybe the best I would just tell in them. Why, for example, when you go to a temple in Japan, for example, then you see there are so many, beside the Buddha and Bodhisattvas, and then you see a lot of gods around, They don't know what are they, not the gods, but there are a lot of things. And, why they have these four, the big guardians, one with the root, one with the sword, one with the umbrella, right, and so forth. Sometimes one with the dog also, or with the dragon, holding a dragon. And they don't know what are they. They was, everywhere in Japanese temple, usually you have those. So those are actually is the Buddhist understanding of the divine beings, okay? So, and you have the divine beings of what we call the four guardians heavens, and then you have the heavens of the, like, for example, Avatam, Trimsika, I mean 33 heavens, because why it calls 33 heavens is so big. And then they have a beautiful garden, it's very famous. And they have a beautiful tree, very huge tree, like when you look at it, it's almost like earth, big tree. So, and they have the glass is so soft. Well, there are lots of description actually, especially in the Buddhist commentary. And then all what you call the Buddhist literature. And definitely you do have that name and that place is mentioned in the sutta, but then also been expanded, how soft they are, you walk on that kind of the glass, you just feel really, really like comfortable like that. It's the best carpet you ever have, feel like that. So anyway, I'm saying this actually back to our subject is that, mostly in America, generally, they have so many different opinions about how Buddhism is about, but Because since Buddhism believes in the karma, and since Buddhism believes in the existence of different type of beings, for example, as the beings of a human, like us, and then, well, actually, I think the Buddhism do not believe that just only Earth like us, but they must be at the galaxy also have the living being like us too. Okay, and then you also have these kind of beings as having a different kind of life. So as now, the thing is, I want to say is that why there are so many statues around, and when you see sometimes, is that it is how the highly, culturally understand that the Buddhism, that there are so many different kind of heavens around, and those heaven is being actually, they always kind of like have a direct contact with us. If you're able to reach them, then you might be able to see them, or you might be able to have a, if you have the same wave, something like that, then you might be able to have a contact with them also. Now, what that has to do with our practice? I just mentioned, I want to back is mention, even though through your good morality, through your having a good conduct, or because you are generous and so forth, so when you die, of course, you still can be with that kind of good quality life you have developed, you have built up, so that will help you to be reborn to a good place. But that only restricted to the heavens of what we call the sensual desire heavens, or you could say the realm of the sensual desire. That means that place that you have a female and male form. But if you want to born to the highest heaven, but you only have two ways to do. One way is that because you meditate and you can develop a jhana or dhyana. If without that kind of meditate dhyana and jhana, then those type of heavens which link to the jhana or dhyana, it's become impossible for you. Okay? And if you want to born even to the highest heaven, that which is we call only the consciousness exists without the physical form exists, then you even have to develop the jhana into more advanced jhana, because you have the first jhana, you have the second jhana, you have the third jhana, and then you need to practice up to that, go beyond the fourth jhana to what we call the formless jhana. Anyway, and this kind of list is very, very popular to those who study Buddhism about the jhana. But I think that in this way now you're lucky to be here, because you actually learning what are they now. It's not just become like a myth. You're reading from a book, but now you're doing it, and you're trying to approach that. Brahma Vihara, as the term say, the practice of the Brahma Vihara, the practice of the force of abiding, it means you actually could using this four kind of quality of the mind to develop jhana, okay? Or to develop that kind of samadhi, the concentration. That's the reason why it's called Brahma Vihara. In other words, once you have this kind, either once you have the loving kindness, and then once you have once you have the concentration of loving kindness, or concentration of the compassion, concentration of the joy as well as the equanimity, you actually live like the divine. Okay. So, because especially if you practice again and again, this sort of abode, living like a divine, it will be because you are working on it or you are doing it. That's what we call karma. Your mind, your intention, or your mind action. Let me begin with to talk about the intention. Your intention is always with the loving kindness. For example, take this as one example. Since you just practiced this so far, taking that as an intention, that you always intentionally, when you see a person, when you think anything, when you're doing, most of the time, so you are not allowing yourself with any other distraction, but just intention. Your intention always go with the Brahma, and basically go with the loving kindness. So that's why you live like the divine. Okay. For that, one of the purpose, I mean, maybe not really interest for you, but just for the sake of the Buddhist teaching. You know, you have to think about some of the Buddhist teachings certainly was 2,600 years ago. It's not like now. People have a very different way of understanding or thinking. But 2,600 years ago, imagine even in America or even in Europe in those days, when they believe in a God, everything is God, okay? Everything. Even whether they have one tooth or two tooth or teeth, you know, it's all with the God. And everything is with the God. So you have to imagine that time, everybody was really, really interested how they can be in the God, okay? Or not they be in the God, they might be, how at least they had to be reborn to be, you know, united, or how, at least in the Indian context, they were united and go to that kind of places. So the Buddha actually trying to narrow that down into, you don't have to think something that really far away now. But what you have to think now is that right now here, you must live with the quality like just like the God, okay? And you can live the quality like the God by practicing the breath. You might be, because you have focus, you might live like they have the quality of the God, maybe just by, you know, practicing anything else, like reciting, recollection of the Buddha and so forth, and this and that. But particularly, if you are practicing the loving kindness, the compassion, the joy, and equanimity, this four sublime abiding, then you will develop actually a very special kind of quality that will allow you to be born in very precisely in a certain place that in 2,600 years ago believed to be the Brahma leaf. Okay. Anyway, all right. It doesn't sound very interesting for all of you guys, but I can tell you one thing is my interest to you. Like, actually, before I become when I was young, I became a monk at 21 years old. Okay. Actually, I started to learn Buddhism when I was 19 years old. But before that, from 16 years old to 19 years old, actually, the few years, I grew up as a kind of, I would say, the atheist. Not atheist, actually, agnostic, I would say. They don't believe in anything about God. But then later on, I became a Christian. Okay. When I was 16 something, and then later on, then I've been kind of like, at least somehow, the karma brought me to become a Buddhist. Now, why I want to talk this topic, it's very important, I think, to me, and also very important to other people. Given the background that at least I learned some theistic religion before. And also I grew up in Malaysia, so you know it's highly also Muslim also a lot around. Now the thing is, being a theistic, brought up as a kind of like with a knowledge of theistic religion. Of course, you still think about sometime, okay, maybe in this life I cannot attain enlightenment like a Buddha, I cannot be Arahant, I cannot maybe not able to have time or maybe know such a wisdom to attain to become a noble person like a Sotapanna. So then, but somehow, you know, I maybe want to be born in a good place, but not earth here because I have seen enough, okay? I don't want to face about in the future climate, what do you mean? Climate crisis, global warming problem. I don't know whether this, you know, all these sort of problem, political problem, you know, and sort of thing. And it's very hard to decide whom you had to vote for, you know, and this. You just thought, no, I don't want to be born here. But of course, you never know the other place how that will be. That, you know, we always have that kind of idea. Better to born to other place. But you know. But as I say, Buddhism is a very down-to-earth religion in some way. It's if you want to born to other place, or because in case if the last minute I change my mind, I want to born other place, what I do, you know, Of course, if you don't know any way, you would just do prayer. Oh, help me, I want to go there, like. But interestingly, that's which Buddhism have highly neglected. Not that they don't have, it's highly neglected in the history. It's one of is this Brahma Vihara. Because why? I can understand why, because I'm a monastic monk too. Because for the monastic monk, when you become a monk, your ideal for being a monk is you have to attain enlightenment. Of course, maybe we change afterward, but you know what I'm saying? When you think that, oh, I want to be a monk, why you want to be a monk? I mean, there might have many reasons, but idealistically, when you decided to be a monk, especially during the Buddha's time, because you want to attain Arahant, right? So, am I right? Yeah. Okay. Are you sure?
Yeah. I
hope so. No, I want to say that this is how definitely is the case. Just like when you go to school, unless you've been forced, I'm just saying that. Let's say you are willing to go to school, you must have that aim. The aim is that at least you have to attend some sainthood, right? That. So because that, if you are in that kind of environment, you'll be always just paying the attention on that part. But some part of which is very important actually for the society or for a lot of people is this is the part I'm going to address. That is a path there's a path to teach you how, if you want to, it doesn't mean that you have to, if you want to reach to heaven, how you reach to heaven, okay? So this is actually the teaching of the Brahma Vihara. It's been addressed by the Buddha, okay? I don't mean this is the only reason, but that definitely is one of the very important reasons. Because in the text, all these Brahmin, they believe that there was a Buddha was born in their land. And if he's a Buddha being born in the land, he would be not only the one have the utmost wisdom, but he must also know the way to go to the heaven, okay? That's how the culture, as a culture. So that's why if you really look at the Buddhist text and they have a lot of debate, they first ask the Buddha, do you know about the place and so forth, and how do you think about my religion and so forth? Anyway, I'm not going to address that issue, those details, but then later, then he say, okay, so it looks like, I agree what you said, but then do you really know how to go to the Brahma world? Okay. And the Buddha, usually the Buddha won't say yes, because it sounds very, how to say, sound very, it's a kind of not humble enough, kind of like that, okay? I don't think the Buddhas pretend to be that, but it's just the Buddha, in order to make person understand, he usually will ask, how about you? Do you know the land? So how do you go to a shop from your hometown? He said, of course I go, I know. I can go, I know how many ways to go to a shop, for example, like that. So, and then the Buddha says a similar way, then I know how many ways you actually can reach to heaven. Now, so I know that I'm talking this a little bit in chaos now. I even feel my mind's chaos. But I want to say is, so what the Buddha trying to say is that there were two ways of doing it, and say in a simple way. One way, if you develop any meditation, if you have the jhana, so that on the verge of dying, you have to put away all your worries, just back to your meditation, and then let the nimitta appear. Let your jhana, if you want to born in the world, the heavens, that link to the jhana, then you are in the jhana. If you don't want to born in the land of the jhana, so when the nimitta appear, when the nimitta been stabilized, and you could just use the nimitta to think where you were born, and you will see where you want to born. When your body is no more sustained your consciousness, and then your consciousness will be directly born to that land, okay, to that heaven. So this kind of information in one way is very important. Not that just because encouraging you to practice your meditation. It's very important actually for someone on the verge of dying. Even though you say, I don't care about those things. But you do care one thing, I'm sure. That is, you don't want to be dying, then you're afraid. But when you're afraid, right? Like now, people telling me, oh, I'm sitting doing meditation, my back is pain, my butt is pain, my leg is pain, you know. Let me tell you, don't think that it's only you pain. I also pain. Maybe I will sit 1 hour, I don't feel pain, but I'm sure I sit 2, 3 hours, I feel the same, right? Okay? The difference is what? I don't afraid. I may move my body because I feel, okay, I cannot really, I cannot really like stay long, but I move my body. But I don't, the important thing, I don't feel anxiety. I don't feel afraid, you know what I'm saying? Because I know one thing, it doesn't hurt my body. Maybe I just don't feel comfortable because my muscle is not ready for that long, you know. That's why I need to move, you know what I'm saying? But there's no way that because I sit, oh, you get hurt your body. How can that be? Tell me. You relax your body, you just sit there. It will not, okay? Another thing is that when that kind of worry comes to me, like that's what the meditation is about. When the worries comes to me, I need to put that worries around. If I cannot put down this, just sitting there, this kind of thing, pain, this worry, I can put it down. I don't mean you'll always success, but at least intentionally you know you have to do that job, right? But if I don't have that kind of understanding, how can I put away my worry in my normal life? When somebody tell you, you know you lost your money, you lost your thing, and I hate you, right? So you have to understand, this is the teachings. So, well, if you even now, you cannot train yourself not to worry too much of your physical while sitting here. Of course, you just make sure you're relaxed, fine. I never hurt anybody because of doing sitting meditation and got hurt. But maybe you tell me, no, you were wrong. I heard there's somebody. Of course, why? Because they were sitting after a long time. Why they get hurt? Suddenly they hear the telephone ringing. They want to jump to telephone. Of course they get hurt. Then, you know, just same thing when you lie in the bed, when you sleep there, right? When you hear the telephone, you wake up and you want to rush to get the telephone. Of course you will get hurt also, right? You must know that, oh, I wake up, I need to let my body back to the sense, and then I just start to, if I really want to pick up a telephone, at least you're aware of physical body, you're back to the sense, you pick up the telephone, right?